Hey besties, it's Nat back again with another Happy Home Paradise speed build video. And today is a very special day. Now you may be wondering, why is she dressed up so nice? And the answer to that is that it is December 15th, the birthday of my ex-husband Chatter. Now, you might have several questions after this. First being, Chatter, the mouse, your ex-husband, why did you get divorced? And I'm going to answer all of those for you in just a moment. But can you just, in your mind for me, wish my little cheesy man a happy birthday today? Because I still love him very much. And he means a lot to me. And I would really mean a lot if you extended that kindness to him as well. So as you can see, in honor of his birthday, I took him out on a little coffee date to the Roost. And met up with him. I have his amiibo, obviously. He's my ex-husband. Of course I have his amiibo. I scanned him in. We're having this lovely coffee date. Chatter and I were married in New Leaf. And you're going to learn more about this relationship when I do my New Leaf town tour at the beginning of next year. But in essence, Chatter and I have always been very close. He's always been very kind to me. He is the one who threw me my birthday party in New Leaf and invited me over to his home to celebrate my birthday. So I thought it was only appropriate that for his birthday, I build him a home. Does that make sense? He also, I think, was the first villager to give me his photo in my New Leaf town. So that was a big deal. Obviously, he's a huge flirt, so he was always flirting with me. Chatter and I are extremely close. And I had some other relationships in New Leaf, which we'll get into once again in that New Leaf video in the future. But Chatter and I have always had something special. The reason we got divorced is because he wasn't ready to move on from my New Leaf town. And I was. So that was that. It was very simple, no hard feelings. We just wanted different things out of life. And that's sometimes the way that things are between adults. But I still love him very much. And that is why today we are building him a very bougie, beautiful mountain cafe in honor of his birthday. So strap in, everyone, and get excited for this adorable little build for my adorable little man. Alright, as we jump into the speed portion of this build, I just want to say two things. One, actually, I want to say three things. The first thing is, oh my god, thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers. What the heck? Where did you guys come from? Where do you guys keep coming from? I don't even understand. The second thing is, Chatter asked me for a cheese chateau, and that's very cool of him. I love the chateau idea. I also kind of like the cheese idea, but I was going to build him a cafe whether he wanted one or not. So let's just get that straight right now. The third thing is, this build, I struggled, besties. I struggled. And part of the reason that I struggled is because I got my COVID booster shot on Sunday. Now, you may recall I posted the Bob's Corner Store video on Sunday, which is slightly later than I had intended. And so after I posted that, I was like, oh, I can relax for the rest of the day and then go get my shot and it'll be fine. I should have pre-recorded this at that time. I should have done the build, just got it done with, and then gotten my shot, and then taken 2 days to rest because that's how many days it took me to recover from my shot. Okay, I'm going to briefly talk about the build for a second. This is a trick that I used on my own island. I've seen other people use, which is using the storefronts to extend your house, and I think it looks really adorable. I think it perfectly fits the chateau vibe. Once again, as I tend to do by accident, it is very much giving Hannibal Lecter vibes, the black and red. You know what this is giving? This is giving Verger Estate. If you know, you know. But yes, that was, I thought, a really fun touch, and we're going to have a little driveway leading up to that side area, and we're going to give Chatter a very nice car. I didn't want it to be too similar to my Lobo house, and it's not, but it definitely has sort of similar shades to that. I really hope y'all enjoyed that car sound of the car going by, because I certainly did. But yes, I should have had the sense to pre-record this build and then just do the voiceover when I felt better. You know what? Actually, I want to preface this story by saying, absolutely go get your COVID booster shot. Nothing that happened to me because of getting my booster shot is anywhere near as bad as actually getting COVID. And also, it only lasted for 2 days. Was it a hellish 2 days? Absolutely. But I'm so glad that I did it, because now I don't have to worry about getting COVID or spreading it to my loved ones. And that's a great relief off of me. But yes, here's a heads up. I read that the Pfizer booster shot is the same size as the previous doses, as opposed to the J&J and Moderna booster shots, which are smaller than the previous doses. So if you had a negative reaction to your second Pfizer dose, you will likely have that same reaction to your third Pfizer dose, which is a thing that I did not know. I just assumed that they were all going to be a smaller dose and that I was going to be fine. But I had a terrible reaction to my second Pfizer dose, and I had a terrible reaction to my third one. So just a heads up, prepare yourself, give yourself a day or two off. If you get your booster shot, you're probably going to need it, especially if you had a negative reaction to your last shot. All of that to say that I struggled with this build, not just from a creative angle, but also from the fact that I couldn't sit up at my desk for extended periods of time because I felt like my stomach was about to fall out of my body and I had to go lie on my bed. But yes, this build was a struggle. The outside was not really. He asked for these milk cans, which I thought were very cute, and I put them over there sort of like, oh, a delivery dropped them off for this bougie cafe. You know, you got to get the fresh milk from the local farm for this place, you know? So I had those over there, and I just wanted it to feel like a little mountain retreat. I didn't originally envision this like mountain vibe, but then I was like, you know, it's wintertime finally in the game, and I think that it would be really fun and interesting to have him have a winter cafe as opposed to my next build, which will also be a cafe. I didn't realize that until after I started this. I was like, I'm doing 2 cafes in 1 week. Y'all are gonna love my next cafe. Trust me, based on what y'all like, y'all are gonna love that video. But yeah, the outside came pretty easily to me after I had established like what the exterior looked like, and I had picked this area for him to be in. I also set the time of day to have the northern lights because I thought that was really pretty. People keep asking me like, how do I get fog? How do I get XYZ weather condition? It's all by changing the weather and the time of day. So fog comes specifically from rain, so you pick rain and then you just go through the different times of day until you get fog. I don't remember specifically which ones they are, but I think it's like one in the morning and then one in the evening. But yes, we're on to the inside. As you can see, I skipped a lot, and that is because it took me like a good half an hour to get to just this point of deciding on the wallpaper and the floor. And this isn't even the final wallpaper and floor. I was struggling. I was trying all of these like cool techniques that I'd seen on Instagram and like experimenting with the windows and the flooring and all of this stuff. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing with this. So I'm just gonna abandon this entirely and just go with what I know, which is, you got your accent wall with the beautiful snowy windows. You got your partition wall with the wood burning stove. Very simple, very easy. And that's what we end up going with. This is pretty much the final shape of the room. A lot of things about the rest of the room change, but the shape stays pretty much the same. The wallpaper changes, that's for sure. But as I'm messing around with these other parts of the build, I want to talk about a comment that I got on my Bob video from this lovely commenter, Jake. Hi, Jake. I read your comment, and it is very interesting, and it's something that I actually wanted to talk about, and I thought would be appropriate for this video. I'm going to put Jake's comment up here, but essentially his comment was about how do you get into the game in terms of the life sim aspects of the game as opposed to the sort of decorating aspects or the completionist aspects of like completing your museum. And I thought that this was a really interesting comment because obviously I am mainly a decorating based channel, but I definitely feel a connection to my villagers, and a lot of my decorating decisions are based off of my villagers, and I also have experience with the previous games, which put a lot more focus on the life sim aspects and the villager interaction than New Horizons does. So I thought that this would be an interesting question to discuss. And as you can see right now, I'm working on the actual cafe portion, which I think turned out super duper cute. So enjoy that as I discuss this. So the first thing that I would probably say is that there are a lot of different ways to play Animal Crossing, specifically New Horizons. New Horizons definitely is the most decorating focused game in the series, and that is an extension of decorating aspects that were expanded upon in New Leaf. But there are lots of different ways to approach the game, and I think that the best way to get a fun experience out of New Horizons is to sort of dabble in all of them, if that makes sense. I'll explain it more in a second, but I get enjoyment out of the game from all of the different areas of gameplay. So obviously I really enjoy the decorating aspect, but I also really enjoy the collecting aspect of completing my museum. And on top of that, I also really enjoy the villager interaction aspect. So all three of those inform how I play the game. A couple of tips, I guess. My first tip for a New Horizons town specifically is to have all of the personality types. There are 8 personality types in the game, and you have 10 villagers on your island, so you get to have 2 extras of a personality type if there's one that in particular that you really like. Having all of the personality types, one, has the gameplay benefit of helping you unlock recipes, because each personality type teaches you different recipes when you visit them and they're crafting something. But more importantly, the interactions between the villagers become way more diverse, and you get way more dialogue, and the little bits of storytelling are a lot more interesting. So, for example, my normal villagers, Coco and Kiki, often have interactions with my lazy villagers, Bob and Bo, the criminal. I'll get to that in a second, for those of you who don't know. But they often have interactions with my lazies where they sort of make fun of them for being a little dumb. Meanwhile, my cranky villager and my sisterly villager, Butch and Fuchsia, they have a lot of interactions with my smug villager, Marshall, where they just don't see eye to eye with him. Because Marshall, he's a city boy, he's very trendy, and Fuchsia and Butch are more old-fashioned, so they often don't see eye to eye with him. And Fuchsia, that's why he and Fuchsia were about to fight in my last video. But having all of those villager personalities and watching them interact with each other, if you see 2 of your villagers talking, absolutely go up and see what they're on about, because I guarantee it will be hilarious and you will love it. So yes, absolutely prioritize having all of the villager types on your island, and that will impact not only the interactions between you and your villagers directly, but also how they interact with each other and the types of relationships they have with one another. And that leads me into my second point, which is the dollhouse aspect of this game. And I'd say that this also applies to a game like The Sims 4, which also prioritizes customization and the creation aspect more so than the life sim aspects. But you gotta get a little bit imaginative. The reason that I consider Bo to be a criminal is that he keeps sending me fake art in the mail. And then he comes to my house and he says passive-aggressive things to me, and I don't take very kindly to that behavior. So obviously that's not programmed into the game. The game isn't programming Bo to be antagonistic towards me. It's programming him to send me art in the mail, which is a thing that villagers will do. And then it just so happens that 100% of the time that art has been fake. The same thing applies to all of the romantic relationships on my island. None of my villagers are actually dating according to the game. None of them are having any romantic interactions, but it's very easy to read their reactions as romantic with a combination of their own dialogue and also dialogue that I provide them. I told Coco to have her catchphrase or her greeting be girlfriend. And then as she speaks to Fuchsia and is calling her girlfriend, and Fuchsia's like, I want to call you girlfriend. It's like, okay, so you're girlfriends now, So having a little bit of I guess, kind of childlike imagination while you're playing the game goes a long way. And that leads into my third point. Wow, I feel so professional having points. But yes, that leads into my third point, which is daily gameplay. Now, a lot of online Animal Crossing people in the community do a lot of time traveling. And there's like debates in the community of like, is it the right way to play the game? There's no right way to play the game. It's a game that you paid for with your money, so you can play however you want to. If you want to only play in springtime and never experience any other seasons, by all means, go right ahead and do that. But for me personally, I use very little time travel. I definitely do time travel. Like, I literally time traveled to the 15th to record this video on his birthday. But I only time travel like a couple of days at a time, and sometimes I'm behind a few days. Sometimes I play one day for a lot longer because there's stuff that I want to do on that day. But time traveling a day at a time really helps me enjoy all of the seasons of the game, and that increases the amount of gameplay that I get out of the game overall. So the seasonality obviously brings stuff like events, which are super fun to play, all of the holidays, all of the fishing tourneys, all of the bug offs. I love all of those events. I think they're super duper fun. But then you like also get to enjoy the smaller events, like your villagers' birthdays, actually completing your Critterpedia and your museum, catching all of the stuff, just interacting with your villagers on a daily basis and doing errands for them. And obviously, like, doing all of that stuff increases your relationship with them, and also you get to see their relationships with other villagers. Like, if they want to give another villager a gift, you bring it to them, and that's how you get your villager photos, which is another cool thing to collect. And I find the collectibles fun as like a marker of progress in your game. Like, I've had the game since launch and have been playing ever since, and my museum is like mostly full. I've completed the fossils, I've completed the fish, I've completed the bugs. I'm almost done with the sea creatures, and I'm still working on the art. But collecting all of these things, along with collecting my villager photos, I think I have 7 out of the 10. Just makes me feel really accomplished. So I know in your comment you said you didn't want to focus too much on the collecting aspect, but I think that if you're someone who only lightly time travels, like maybe time travels a day at a time, and you're just taking the game day by day, then those aspects take a long enough time that they're still really fulfilling as an aspect of the game. Because obviously if you're speedrunning it, it's gonna go by in a flash, but if you're taking your time with it, then it's really rewarding over time to see those collectibles sort of build up. But I want to pause and talk about the build for a second. Here I am doing an art wall. I thought that I wanted this build to be different than my previous cafe build of like a really like modern sort of cold corporate cafe, and make something that was more like personal, like Chatter's own business. And a lot of the cafes that I've been to in real life, or that I frequent, are sort of like those like artsy kind of hipstery cafes that have a lot of like art on the walls and have like furniture from the thrift store and like weird sculptures everywhere. There's actually one that I used to go to all the time that was next to my old apartment, but it closed because of COVID. So y'all get your booster shot. Get your booster shot so that we don't have more charming little cafes going out of business. Okay, that's my PSA for you all. But anyways, the idea of it was based off of that, and I ended up changing the wallpaper from these wooden slats to like this warm chocolatey brown wood that was like in a chevron pattern, just because I wanted this build to look less like Rover's house. Which I did on stream last week, and I was like, this looks too much like Rover's house, so we have to change this up a little bit, and I'm really glad that I did, because it finally captured the warm, cozy, wintry vibes that I was going for, and it just like the build finally came together. So that was like the biggest struggle of this build, was picking a wallpaper, and then at the end of the build, I reached the item limit for a room. So if you don't know, New Horizons has a limit for the number of items you can put in a room, and I've reached it for this room. And at first I thought it was because of all of the art on the walls. I've reached it before because I was using the glow-in-the-dark stickers to make windows, and so I wasn't using that for this build, so I was wondering like, what could it be? And then looking back on the build now, I realize it's the lights. There are so many lights in this build, and honestly, if I could change anything about this build, I would probably get rid of some of the lights because there's a lot of them, and you're gonna notice at the end there's so many. But yes, back to Jake's lovely question. I think that the wallpaper just changed. Isn't it stunning and exquisite? Anyways, things like the collecting aspect, the completionist aspect of the game are a lot more fulfilling the slower you take them. And I think that it's added to when you have an attachment to your town. Like, it's one thing to just speed run filling up your museum or speed run completing the Nook Miles rewards, but it's another thing if like you enjoy the island that you have and the villagers that you have, because then it feels sort of like you're improving the community. So talk to your villagers every day, do your dailies, like doing your Nook Miles Plus tasks, donating stuff to the museum, all of that stuff. Interrupt your villagers when they're talking to each other to see what they're up to, and see how their relationships are going with each other. Try to restrict time traveling to just a day at a time. If you struggle with the decorating aspect of the game, try to decorate based on your villagers. For example, the whole reason that I did that playground area was partially because it fit my theme, but mainly because I have 2 lazy villagers, and that is a perfect area for lazy villagers to have to fit their personality. So it makes the decorating feel more personal. A trend that I really liked from like the early game sort of community was personalized villager yards, where every villager in your villager neighborhood had their own yard with their own sort of theme to it, and it had furniture to cater to them. And don't get me wrong, this isn't like a trend that died out or anything. People absolutely still decorate their islands like this. Not everyone is doing like some crazy Instagram stuff with perspective and like building fake buildings. Most people just decorate their islands based on their villagers. And that's honestly like a great place to start. List the Last, another amazing YouTuber. Did I just accidentally imply that I'm also amazing? Okay, we're gonna pass by that. But List the Last recently did a normcore island, that's what she called it, where she decorated based on a lot of those trends from the early game, and she included that aspect of like having customized villager yards and houses. And so if you're looking for decorating inspiration, highly recommend that. And I think that my final piece of advice would be to, if you get bored of New Horizons, try playing one of the earlier games. Okay, here's where the lights start to get a little crazy. I love these milk lamps. I think they're really beautiful, and I'm glad that I put them in, but I need to calm down on some of the other lights, okay? Because I was going a little crazy with the lights in here. But yes, try playing one of the earlier games. The earlier games are a lot more focused on the villager interactions, especially the first 2, Animal Crossing for the GameCube and Wild World. New Leaf is more similar to New Horizons, but it also has a lot of the aspects from the previous games, and it's like a good balance between the 2 eras of Animal Crossing, like the villager interaction focused era and the decorating focused era of New Horizons. Now, obviously, New Leaf is the second most recent game. It was a 3DS game, so it's definitely the easiest to get a physical copy of. And I'm not saying you should use an emulator. I'm just saying that emulation is a thing that exists. That's all I'm going to say on that topic. But yes, try playing one of the older games. They're super duper fun. They have a lot more relationship-focused gameplay. Wild World has a really complex system of villager personalities where they have interests that change over time, and so that's really fun. The villager dialogue in the original GameCube game is really fantastic. They have so much to say and a lot of rude things to say. City Folk is sort of an extension of Wild World, so you could pick up either of those games and have a great time. And the New Leaf is closer to New Horizons while still retaining a lot of the charm, complexity, and challenge of the earlier games. And if you have a 3DS and can play with other people, the multiplayer in that game is excellent. So yes, those are my recommendations for how to enjoy Animal Crossing, both New Horizons and the series in general. I hope that somewhat answered your question. I don't know how else to approach it. I have been playing life sim games since the second that I picked up a video game controller. Like, I've always been a fan of the genre, and it's always been like my dollhouse. And I'm a big fan of that imagination aspect of the gameplay, along with the customization and the decorating and the relationships and all of that stuff. So I'm always happy to see other people get into it, because I just think it's a really fun genre of game, and Animal Crossing is some of the best of it. But thank you again, Jake, for leaving such an interesting comment that gave me so much to think about and talk about. Just as sort of an aside, even if I don't respond directly to your comment, I read all of them, and they bring me so much joy. Oh, here's the part where I ran out of room for items. It's so embarrassing. How did I fill this room up with lights? What's wrong with me? Anyways, I ended up getting rid of something and putting a rug down. It's the same rug that I used in my own kitchen build. Link in the card, kitchen build. But yes, I read all of your comments. They bring me so much joy and happiness to see you guys are enjoying my videos. And even if you only have like one word to say, or 2 words, or an entire essay, all of the comments, they fill me with so much joy, and it means a lot to me that whichever of my videos you watched, you liked it so much that you felt compelled to leave a comment and even sometimes subscribe. Like, that's so crazy to me, and it warms my heart so much. I appreciate all of you so much, and to all 5,000 or so of you, we're almost at 5.5 if you can believe it. Thank you all so much for your kindness. At the end of the day, the reason that I make videos is because I'm inspired by this game to create, and the reason that I share those videos is because I want to spread that energy. And I love this community so much, the online community, and just like having someone else to play the game with is such a blessing. And I know that I go to YouTube and Twitch to get that sense of community. So if I can be that for you, that is like the biggest compliment that I could ever get. So thank you all so much for your support. I guess that's the long way of saying that. It means the world to me. Ooh, the window. Let's talk about the build for a second before the video ends. The window coverings, that's another thing where I was like, should I get rid of those? Because I ran out of items. Obviously, you got to steam the hot things, as you know, as we all know. But I was considering getting rid of the window covering because I was like, we're running out of room. But I ended up not getting rid of them because I liked them. And I'm selfish and I wanted to keep them. Same with that bread bowl. The bread bowl I wasn't considering getting rid of, but I just wanted to point it out because I love a bread bowl. And I really wish that I had a bread bowl yesterday when I was in hell. But we're about to come to the end of the video, I think. I'm going to change Chatter into just the most dapper sweater you've ever seen in your life. Are you ready for it? Are you ready? Look at him. He's just so cute. I mean, I know we're separated, but I will always love him. But here we are at the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Everybody leave a like to wish Chatter a happy birthday, and I will see you all on Saturday for a video that y'all are not gonna want to miss. Bye!